My mother-in-law crashed our anniversary trip that I spent a year planning, and my husband took her side. So, I abandoned him there. I, 34F, have been married to my husband Nathan, 34M, for 7 years, together for 10. We have 2 little ones, Emma, 4F, and Noah, 2M. Like most couples with young kids, we juggle full-time jobs, daycare pickups, meal prep, endless laundry, and everything else that comes with raising small children. Nathan is a good dad and does his share around the house. He bathes the kids 3 nights a week, handles bedtime stories, and never complains about diaper duty. The problem started about 8 months ago when he began making comments about our relationship lacking spark. At first, they were subtle hints, then they became more direct. He mentioned that our intimate life had become predictable and boring. These comments happened so often that I started feeling inadequate. For our upcoming anniversary, I decided to do something special. I wanted to show him that I was listening and that I cared. I started saving money from my personal spending budget each month. I worked overtime for extra cash without telling him, sometimes staying up late after the kids were asleep to meet deadlines. For almost a year, I put aside money specifically for this surprise. I researched different properties and found the perfect vacation home in the mountains, about 3 hours from where we live. It was secluded, luxurious, and had all the amenities that aligned with things Nathan had hinted at wanting to try: a private pool, hot tub, outdoor shower, and amazing views. The rental wasn't cheap. It cost nearly $3,000 for 4 nights, but I believed it would be worth every penny to reconnect with my husband. I arranged for my sister to watch the kids for 5 days. I bought expensive wine, specialty foods, and packed new lingerie. 2 weeks before the trip, I told Nathan about it so he could request time off work. He seemed genuinely surprised and pleased. The day of our anniversary getaway arrived. We packed the car, dropped the kids off, and made the drive to the mountains. When we arrived, the property was even more beautiful than in the photos. Floor-to-ceiling windows with mountain views, a designer kitchen, luxurious bedrooms, and multiple bathrooms with spa features. Nathan whistled when we walked through the door, commenting that it must have cost a fortune. That first evening, we opened a bottle of wine and spent time in the hot tub under the stars. Things were going exactly as planned. We went inside, and I put on music while Nathan poured more wine. We began kissing on the couch when headlights flashed through the windows. A car was coming up the driveway. Before we could react, there was knocking at the door. Nathan opened it, and there stood his mother Belinda, 58F, his sister Katie, 36F, her husband Rob, 38M, and their teenage daughter Zoe, 16F. They all had suitcases. I stood there in my robe, unable to process what was happening. Belinda walked right in, looked around approvingly, and announced that since the house was so big with multiple bedrooms, there was plenty of space for everyone to stay. My mouth opened but nothing came out. Nathan looked shocked too, but then he did something that knocked the wind out of me. He helped his mother choose a bedroom. He carried her suitcase upstairs while she chatted about their drive. I stood frozen in the living room while his sister and brother-in-law made themselves comfortable on the couch I had just been intimate with my husband on. I grabbed the bottle of wine and locked myself in the master bathroom. I sat in the empty tub and drank directly from the bottle. An hour passed. Nathan never came to check on me. When I finally emerged, I found the family in the kitchen going through the food I had brought, making jokes about the fancy cheese and expensive crackers. I took a sleeping pill and went to bed early. Nathan came to bed hours later, whispering that he was sorry about his family showing up unexpectedly. I pretended to be asleep. The next morning, I woke up early and discovered nearly all the alcohol I had purchased was gone. Empty wine bottles and beer cans filled the recycling bin. I got dressed and left for a hike alone. I walked for hours, trying to clear my head. When I returned around 1 p.m., Belinda, Katie, Rob, and Zoe were still sleeping. Nathan was in the kitchen making coffee. He gave me a quick kiss and apologized again for the surprise visitors. Then he suggested we sneak upstairs for a quick round before making breakfast for everyone. I stared at him in disbelief. The entire point of this trip was to have uninterrupted time together in a romantic setting, and he wanted to squeeze in a quickie before cooking for his family who had crashed our anniversary? I watched him gather ingredients to make pancakes for everyone. Without saying a word, I went upstairs, packed my suitcase, and took the car keys. Nathan was flipping pancakes when I came downstairs with my luggage. He asked where I was going. I didn't answer. I walked out, put my suitcase in the car, and drove away. During the 3-hour drive home, Nathan called repeatedly. I ignored every call. When I arrived home, I texted him that I was safe and at our house. He immediately called again. I turned off my phone. Over the next 2 days, Nathan texted that he wanted to come home, but Belinda insisted they should stay and enjoy the house since it was paid for. He texted photos of them using the pool and hot tub, saying they were having a great time and it would be a shame to waste the rental. Each message made me more furious. Nathan finally returned home on our actual anniversary, 2 days after I left. I spent that day with the kids and my sister, deliberately ignoring his texts about wanting to celebrate when he got back. When he arrived home, he was angry at me for abandoning him. We had multiple heated discussions over the next few days. Katie and Rob texted apologies, claiming they had no idea it was our anniversary trip and that Belinda had presented it as a spontaneous family vacation she was organizing. Nathan eventually apologized for his family crashing our trip but then said the house was too big for just 2 people anyway, and it was better that more people got to enjoy such an expensive rental. When I reminded him that I had saved for almost a year and spent my own money specifically to create a special experience for him because of his complaints about our relationship, he shrugged and said he preferred spontaneous intimacy without all the big production. That comment broke something in me. I couldn't look at him the same way. He complained about our relationship, but when I made an enormous effort to address his concerns, he dismissed it completely. I felt like I was living with someone who wanted the benefits of marriage without being willing to prioritize our relationship over his mother's whims. It's been 2 weeks since that disastrous trip, and I can't get past this. I see Nathan as someone who complains when things aren't perfect but doesn't appreciate genuine effort. What bothers me most is his inability to see how his mother barging into our anniversary trip was inappropriate, and his failure to ask them to leave. For clarity, Nathan didn't specifically invite his family, but he shared details about the house and location with his mother, who always pries into our plans. Belinda is immature and self-centered. She throws tantrums when she doesn't get her way. Nathan has always catered to her demands while simultaneously complaining about her behavior. It's like he learned to parent our children by managing his mother's emotional outbursts. I don't know how to move forward. Everything that attracted me to Nathan seems overshadowed by this incident. He wants us both to apologize and move on, but I'm struggling to let this go. How do I save my marriage when I can't even look at my husband without remembering how he prioritized his mother over our relationship? Update 1. First, thank you for all the comments and support on my original post. Several people suggested having a direct conversation with Nathan about the deeper issues, so I did. I started by acknowledging that leaving him stranded at the vacation house wasn't the most mature response. I explained that I felt humiliated and disappointed, but I should have communicated better instead of driving off. I hoped this acknowledgement would open the door to a more constructive conversation. What Nathan revealed next stunned me. He said he welcomed his family to the vacation house because he was embarrassed for me. Apparently, before our trip, Belinda had pressed him for details, and he forwarded her the reservation information. When she saw the size and cost of the house, she commented that it was wasteful and excessive for just 2 people, adding that this was typical Audrey behavior. Nathan claimed he allowed his family to stay because he thought if they saw me being a good hostess in a property that could accommodate everyone, they might stop making fun of me behind my back. That's when I learned I've been a running joke in his family for years. The conversation spiraled as Nathan admitted he partially agrees with his family's assessment that I tend to overdo things and spend too much money. He brought up several examples from our marriage. Early in our relationship, Nathan was nervous about meeting important clients at his firm. I researched professional attire, shopped sales and thrift stores for quality pieces, found a tailor to adjust them perfectly, and created a wardrobe that helped him look the part of a successful professional. His firm landed the client, and Nathan received a substantial bonus. He thanked me profusely at the time, saying my help boosted his confidence. I later mentioned my efforts to Belinda, hoping to bond with her. Instead, she laughed and told everyone I was playing dress-up with my husband like a doll. This became a family joke. Now, years later, Nathan referenced this as evidence of my shopping problem, completely forgetting his initial gratitude. Another time, Nathan was hosting a dinner for 15 clients. I organized personalized gifts for each guest while 8 months pregnant and caring for our daughter. I ordered everything online to save time. The recycling piled up from all the packaging, and Belinda took a photo of it. She now uses this photo as evidence of my online shopping addiction. Again, Nathan has adopted this narrative, forgetting the context and purpose behind the purchases. After our second child, Nathan made comments about my physical stamina. I tried Pilates, then yoga. I developed back problems related to my pregnancies, and my physical therapist recommended strength training with proper form. I hired a trainer twice a week to avoid injury. Nathan's family framed this as me flitting from hobby to hobby and throwing money at trainers instead of just joining a recreational sport. I pointed out that we have no debt except our mortgage, both earn good salaries, and Nathan had never previously expressed concerns about our finances or my spending habits. The realization that he had internalized his family's negative narrative about me was devastating. The most shocking revelation came when we returned to discussing the vacation house itself. I reminded Nathan that I specifically chose a property with private outdoor amenities because for years he had mentioned fantasies about being intimate outdoors, in pools and hot tubs. I was never comfortable with the idea of potentially being seen by others, so I found a secluded property where we could safely experiment. Nathan then admitted he never actually wanted those things. He only said them to make me uncomfortable, to flirt or get a rise out of me. He saw it as playful teasing. In reality, the entire premise of my anniversary gift was based on desires he never genuinely had. That admission turned my love to dust. I realized I had been played and managed throughout our relationship. I spent a year saving and planning to fulfill what I thought were his deepest desires, only to discover it was all a manipulation tactic. I started individual therapy last week. I now see clearly what I need to do for myself, but I need to consider what's best for Emma and Noah. Nathan is a devoted father, and the kids adore him. I'm questioning my judgment about who he is as a husband, but I can't deny his commitment to our children. Update 2. The past 6 weeks have been focused on self-care and practical planning. I've consulted with 2 different divorce attorneys to understand my options and potential outcomes. I'm not rushing into anything, but I needed to know where I stand legally. Last week, I told Nathan I wanted to separate our finances. I opened a new bank account and redirected my paychecks and savings there. I proposed splitting the mortgage payment 50-50, even though he earns more than I do. I make enough to cover my share comfortably. Nathan was visibly upset by this move. He disagreed with separating our money and refused to remove me from his accounts. He still expected me to manage all our household bills from our joint accounts as I always had. He maintained that I was blowing a minor disagreement out of proportion. When that didn't work, I told him I had spoken with divorce attorneys. His face drained of color. He was angry and hurt, which made me feel terrible despite everything. He suggested marriage counseling as a last resort. I agreed to try, mostly for the kids' sake. Some background about our living situation: after Nathan's father passed away 2 years ago, Belinda became increasingly dependent on Nathan emotionally. She primarily lives with or near Katie, but whenever they argue, Belinda retreats to our guest bedroom. She has keys to our house and treats the guest room as her room. Her stays became more frequent and longer after her husband died. Last week, I moved out of the master bedroom and into the guest room. Nathan was upset about this arrangement, wanting me back in our bedroom. When Belinda found out, she was furious that I had taken her room. She demanded that I sleep in the kids' room instead and let her have the guest room back. I refused, reminding her that this was my house too. She responded with crying and accusations about me being selfish. This situation finally prompted Nathan to establish a boundary with his mother. He told her to stop throwing tantrums about the sleeping arrangements and asked her not to come over uninvited while we worked on our marriage issues. Belinda ignored his request. She came over while Nathan was at work, cornered me in the kitchen, and told me she looked forward to me leaving the family. She mentioned that she was already lining up dates for Nathan with Amy and Beth, daughters of family friends, who she claimed always had crushes on him and would be much better matches than me. I looked at her, rolled my eyes, and told her that Amy was pretty, but since Nathan was an ass man, Beth would probably be the better choice. The look of shock on her face was worth it. Later that evening, Nathan came home and asked me why his mother was telling people I had confessed to being a lesbian. I explained our conversation and my crude comeback about his preferences. Instead of being amused, Nathan was livid at his mother for twisting my words into a malicious lie. He called her immediately, yelled at her for the first time I've ever witnessed, and banned her from our house. If nothing else good comes from this mess, at least Belinda is no longer welcome in our home. Update 3. We've been attending marriage counseling weekly, and we're each seeing individual therapists as well. The counseling helped us identify several issues. Our communication had broken down over the last 2 years, and we were drifting apart under the stress of work, young children, Nathan's father's death, and Belinda's subsequent behavior. A significant portion of our sessions focused on Nathan's relationship with his mother. He acknowledged feeling guilty and frustrated about her demands after his father died. Belinda manipulated him with stories about his responsibilities as the man of the family. She fixated on criticizing me, and over time, Nathan began internalizing her negative perspective. We also addressed the issues in our intimate life. Nathan was shocked to learn I perceived his critiques as abusive. He claimed what he actually enjoyed was watching me analyze our intimate moments afterward, similar to how I analyze projects at work. He found my analytical approach attractive but never realized the pressure it created for me. He saw it as playful banter. I experienced it as constant criticism. Despite these insights, understanding the why behind our problems hasn't restored my feelings for Nathan. We've continued living like roommates who co-parent. I stopped doing many things I used to handle for him, managing his work travel, organizing his social engagements, maintaining his professional wardrobe. 2 weeks ago, Nathan approached me with a proposal. He acknowledged he had taken me for granted and failed to appreciate my efforts. He suggested that instead of divorcing, we start over, rebuild our relationship from scratch by dating each other again. The key part of his proposal was relocating approximately 8 hours away using a transfer opportunity at his company. I was skeptical, especially about whether he would actually follow through with moving away from his mother. To my surprise, when Nathan told Belinda about our potential move, she completely melted down. Katie even approached me privately, asking me to convince Nathan to stay because Belinda was losing her mind and becoming an even bigger burden for Katie to handle alone. Despite the family pressure, Nathan kept his word. We moved 8 hours away last month. My job allows remote work, so the transition was easier for me professionally. The past couple of weeks have been surprisingly pleasant. Nathan has been planning family activities on weekends and suggesting date nights where we take turns choosing the restaurant or activity. I've maintained firm boundaries about my involvement in his career. No more acting as his personal assistant or image consultant. I'm focusing on my own professional development instead. I'm cautiously optimistic but realistic. The physical distance from Belinda has already improved our day-to-day interactions significantly. Nathan seems genuinely committed to rebuilding our relationship on more equal footing. Time will tell if these changes last and if my feelings for him can recover from the damage. For now, we're taking it one day at a time in our new home, creating new patterns and establishing healthier boundaries. The kids are adjusting well to their new school and neighborhood. Whatever happens between Nathan and me, the move itself was the right decision for all of us.